Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Kate Adams, and I'm the SVP of Marketing at Validity. You can find me on LinkedIn at Kate Adams24 or K Adams24 on Twitter. Thanks so much for being here for this session of Where's the H or Where's the Human in B2B. So I wanted to cover a couple things for you today. Let's start out by talking about how, look, the reality is the buying process is more complex than ever. 70% of the buyer's journey is complete before a buyer ever reaches out to your sales team. That means that today's buyers are coming to you more educated than they ever have been before. They've done their research, right? They've gone out and looked at your website, looked at your competitor's website, read a lot of your information. They've read reviews about your product or solution. They know a ton about you when they've landed in your queue. Not to mention the fact that, look, the buying teams are getting bigger by the minute. The last count here was 10.2 is the average number of people on a buying team today. Gartner says that 67% of a buying group's time, of those 10 people that are together, they're spent researching, meeting without you. So even before they actually are, even after they come to you, the majority of their time is actually spent meeting when you're not in the room. You're no longer in charge of as much of the dialogue about your solution as you have been historically. And a big component of the research that these folks are doing before they come to you to complete that buyer's journey, right? I just told you 70% of it is done, is that it's 55% of buyers today are relying on word of mouth, meaning friends or social media referrals when making a B2B buying decision. This stat comes to us from our friends at HubSpot, right? And so the biggest component of this is because the buying journey has become so much more complex than we have ever known it to be. And in great part because there are so many more solutions today than there were even a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Just in the marketing technology landscape alone, there are over 8,600 tools for you to choose from. I live and breathe this stat every single day. I can't remember the last solution that I bought that I hadn't actually reached out to a former colleague, a present colleague, or just somebody that I trusted to see if they had experience with it and what their experience was. So you compound this with the idea that, look, the buying journey is more complex than ever, but also buyer expectations are higher than they have ever been before. 68% of B2B customers prefer to research independently online, according to Serious Decisions. 70% of those B2B marketers today say that customer expectations for more personalized experiences across the buying journey have increased, according to Forrester. And so people want to do their research independently online. The buying group is having discussions without you when you're in the room. Either they're researching themselves independently or they're researching together as a group. And so when they're doing that independent research, what they want is a more personalized, more relevant experience to them. They want it to be easy to find the information that they're looking for. And they want that information to be customized to their needs. And speaking of information, right, again, Gartner talks about how when someone actually receives information that they perceive to be helpful throughout the buying journey, they are 2.8 times more likely to say that that purchase was easy for them. And not only that, but if they have identified that experience to be easy, they actually are 3 times more likely to sign a higher value, low regret deal. And I love those two things together, right? Because as a B2B marketer, there's nothing I love more than higher value because, right, if we're all achieving to get to $10 million in revenue, either this month or this quarter or this year, whatever your goals are, you could get there with 20 $500,000 deals, or you could get there with 200 or 2,000, $1,000 deals, right? I'd like to end up someplace in the middle there. The higher the value of the deal that we bring in, then the more focused we can become on who our target accounts are that we want to do business with. On the low regret side, that actually means that they're exponentially more likely to not churn on you, right? If I don't have regret from the minute that I make the purchase, then I also don't have regret when it comes time for renewal, more than likely, right? And so one of the key problems is, if we know that these two things are true, if we know that the buyer journey is more complex than ever, if we know that buyer expectations are higher than they have ever been, but the thing is, we haven't changed our model as B2B marketers. We haven't really made a pivot on either of these two facets. We're still working in this oversimplified model, right? And raise your hand, your virtual hand, right? If your customer lifecycle looks something like this, like where you have something that around awareness, and then maybe you have something on inquiries, and then you move right into MQL to SAL to SQL to op, and then finally to purchase, right? Or customer. And so this is the model that we have been using for so many years, even as all of the things around us and around this work is changing dramatically. And so we end up with what we all knew growing up as kids as this kind of alphabet soup, right? We've acronymized, if you will, let me use that as a verb, just about every single thing around us, right? We've got PQLs, SQLs, MQLs, SLAs, SALs, PPC, CPL, CRO, CPA, CRM, CAC, right? LTV, all of these things we've just oversimplified everything down to an acronym. I think there's only one industry today that I'm aware of that may have more acronyms than marketing, and it's healthcare. And the reason why they use acronyms there is because the words for things are oftentimes so long and so complicated, right? But for us as marketers, these aren't really that complicated, yet we've just turned everything into an acronym. But really, let's not kid ourselves, right? We're all using that same funnel, and it's a beautiful picture, right? But the reality is, it's just not that simple. We have to stop kidding ourselves as marketers here, and we need to really come to the conclusion, or finally have a realistic moment where we understand, truly, this journey is not linear. This journey is incredibly complex. We've got 10 different buyers in the mix, and all of them are at different stages at different times, right? So it's incredibly likely here that Gartner has articulated this incredibly well, right? It's incredibly likely that I come in and I enter in at problem identification, and then, I understand, I think I know what the problem is. So, then maybe I jump into requirements building, but then I realize, oh, I actually need to explore some solutions more. And so then I explore the solutions, but some of that solution information is talking about things. So maybe I don't understand the problem well enough. So I go back up to problem identification, and then I grow impatient with the whole thing and just say, like, look, who can help me with this problem? So I start to get into supplier selection, and then I come back to solution exploration, right? All of this journey is not linear. It's not as simple as we've made it to be the entire way through. And so really, we've got this customer life cycle, which we've turned into acronyms, but the reality is that the job of the buyer is different at all of these different stages, and they're asking themselves wildly different questions at each of these stages. And they're also not following each of these stages sequentially. They're moving back and forth and up around, right? So initially, you've got somebody who's coming to you at awareness, right? That they've just heard your company name, maybe heard your product name, maybe they heard somebody behind a podium somewhere talking about a great solution that they're using. And then finally, they start to engage with you, right? They start to understand, like, oh, what is this? This looks like a really interesting ebook. Oh man, this information looks like something that could really help me out. And then they move further down the funnel into education. They start educating themselves with your materials. They start educating themselves on the problems that you can help solve, right? And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, like, how do I solve my email deliverability problem? How can I actually eliminate duplicates from within my database? All of those things, right? Until then, finally, oh, great. Now I understand how I can eliminate those duplicates and why they're a problem. But now I need to figure out what are the solutions that I can put in place to remove duplicates out of my database. What are the solutions that I can put in place that will help me make sure that my email actually lands in the inbox? And then get into evaluation. So now I start evaluating all of these solutions, right? Some of them may be I can do an export of my database every day and remove the duplicates manually, and I could hire somebody to do that as a full-time employee. Or another solution may be that I can buy software that can prevent those duplicates from ever entering my system from the first place, and start evaluating all the differences, right? Evaluating all of the components of, well, an FTE will cost me this much, but this software solution will cost me this much, right? And I can automate it. And that may be more a better way to do it, because maybe that experience from an employee perspective isn't going to be all that exciting and all that captivating the entire time. And so then you move into this justification phase. Like, finally, I've actually figured out my solution, but how can I justify this purchase either to my CMO, to my CEO, to my CRO, whatever it is, whoever we need to justify it to? How do I prove to them that this solution has been effective for other organizations, right? And they're moving back and forth throughout this entire pyramid the entire way. But really, I'm digging in on this in terms of this kind of blowing apart that buyer's journey, so that we can start to think about the questions that people are really asking themselves along the way, the questions that people are really thinking as they go through this process. And you'll notice that I keep saying people. I'm not saying the questions that an MQL has across the buyer journey. I'm not saying the question that a PQL is trying to answer. We have oversimplified this down to such a way and added so many acronyms into the system that our team has actually forgotten that these are people on the other end. These are people who have emotions, who have needs, who are trying to figure out how to solve real tactical problems that they're held accountable to every day. And so rather than going to another acronym, to your SDR, to your sales development team, and saying like, hey, why didn't you follow up with all these MQLs? They're so great. Why aren't we having a conversation with, like, look, Marriott, Nike just came in. What was wrong? Why do you think that we can't have a conversation with her? Why do you think that we shouldn't actually spend our time following up with her to make sure that we can help, that if there's a way we can help her, that we can provide value to her business, right? And all of those things, it's really remembering that there's people on the other side of this the entire way down. This is where that human component comes in. And so we've done ourselves such a disservice. We thought it was all about getting more efficient and more effective. But the reality is we've actually made ourselves less efficient and less effective, because we've forgotten that to address the human component, to do some of the things that everybody was talking about at the start of this pandemic, which was to think about how can you be empathetic. Right? That was one of the biggest time that I can remember as a marketer that people actually started thinking about a more human approach to buying, to selling, to marketing. And the reality of why you want to do that is, if you look at that customer life cycle, and we all know this symbol, right? This is the infinity symbol. When you turn this around on its head, though, this looks startlingly, surprisingly, very similar to that funnel, right? And the reality is, I make this analogy because the reality is that this funnel is an infinite loop. That as you bring somebody post-purchase into adoption phase, and you get them to adopt, and you get them to retain and want to renew with you, that you get them to actually buy more and understand the value that your organization is driving for them, until finally they become an advocate and decide that they are willing to go tell people outside of their organization, outside of your organization, how valuable your solution is to you. That's just filling back up that top of the funnel, right? It's an infinite loop. If you do this right, if we all do this right as B2B marketers, we're just filling the top of the funnel again with all of these people that are coming down here to advocacy. So I'm going to ask you to do something now, which may feel like a stretch, but I took a cue from not really a good friend of mine, I wish, but to somebody we all know really well, Justin Timberlake. And with his one of his hits, he brought something else back. But I'm asking us as marketers to bring the human back. Right? Let's take a tip from JT and bring the human back into our funnels, because I fundamentally believe that that is the only way that we can be successful as marketers. I believe that the companies that do this best will win. And so what does this actually look like? Well, what does bringing the human back into marketing actually look like? It means that we need to stop thinking about things from an organizational perspective and start thinking about our experience from a human perspective. And there's that old adage of water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Well, the idea, sometimes I feel like that with data. I mean, there's so many folks that are sliding into my LinkedIn InMail, right? Selling me data every day. Every single vendor has another data point that I should be thinking about, or more data that I can buy from them for whatever price they want to sell it to me at. And so then my question becomes, okay, if all this data is available and the consumers know it, right? That's in large part why their expectations have changed. No longer are consumers dumb. We all know that with every single move we make, that companies are capturing data about us. And so now our expectations are that, fine, if I am saying that you can have this data, if I'm agreeing to your cookie policy at every single website visit, then please do something with it and make this experience better for me. Improve this for me. But somehow we are still under the guise that if we just optimize for our organization. So instead of just getting your email and enriching that to first name, last name, job title, your phone number, like the country, I can buy all this data. I can take the onus off of the user and put it on myself to go do the work on my own, so that I can create a frictionless, memorable experience and get people to where they want to get to quicker. The other way that this looks is like, look, stand out in the noise. Email, the amount of email year over year is currently up 94% year over year, right? And why is that? Well, because marketers have lost so many channels through this world health crisis. So they've had to double down on digital and email. For as many times as people have called it dead, it is far from dead. And it's actually having an amazing heyday right now. But in order to stand out in that 94% increase in volume, we really need to be thinking about, how is it that we're arming our sales development reps, our business development reps, our market development reps, whatever you're calling them today? How are we equipping them to stand out and make a memorable message that actually provides value to the recipient? And so here's an example where one of our account executives actually went out and created, like, look, I'm on your website. I understand that you have this problem, because watch, I'm going to show you this problem. I'm actually going to show you that I am able to put a non-verified email or trash data right into your system, right into your marketing automation platform, and more than likely your CRM right this second. And the reality is that you should be able to stop this. And I have a solution that can help you stop this today. Wow, that's a heck of a lot more compelling to me than just some generic message with a stat about the number of unverified emails within my database, right? This person's done their homework. They've actually spent time on my website. They have a solution that can really help me, and I want to know more. Another component is that personalized experience. So I already talked to you about how buyer expectations have changed. I've talked to you about why they've changed. It's because people are no longer dumb to the fact that we're collecting all this data on them. Now they want us to use it. And so here's an example where Brex does this exceptionally well. For Airbnb, whenever somebody from Airbnb goes onto the Brex website, they're actually able to see that they have an exclusive offer just for them, right? Their card fees are waived forever, and they can sign up right here. That is an incredibly personalized experience, right? No longer am I just one of the lemmings coming in and filling out one of your forms. I'm actually somebody who is really signing up. You actually understand what I need. You understand where I am in the buyer journey. You understand what matters to me, and you've taken the time to personalize just for me. Here's another example where Livestorm does this exceptionally well, where Livestorm actually is recognizing that I'm a customer of Webinar Now, and then they're able to customize this page, telling me exactly how they compete from between Webinar Now and why they're so much better and why they're a better solution for me, right? This is what I'm talking about when I say people know you have the data, so they expect you to go use it. And we as marketers have to figure out how to do this in a very meaningful way. And we need to figure out how to do this across the entire customer lifecycle, all the way from awareness to advocacy. How can you meet your buyers where they are? How can you help them understand? How can you provide helpful information to them that will give them the perception that this purchase process was easy, that will make them 3 times more likely to spend more money with you and 3 times more likely to not actually regret doing business with you. It's incredibly important. Look, you've given me your most precious asset today, and that is your time. And I am forever grateful for that. And I want to say thank you for doing that. Validity we just published the State of Email Marketing 2021 report. I would love it if you'd come over and grab a piece of it, grab a copy of it for yourself, completely free. I hope that you find it valuable. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me anytime. I'd love to hear what you thought about this session. I would love, please tweet at me, shoot me an email, whatever you've got. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope this was valuable. I hope you came away with some ideas on how we can actually bring the human back to B2B. Thank you so much.